have Marnie LaVigne come up. She is actually, her firm Launch New York was the most active seed investor in all of upstate New York for 2017, according to our data. So Marnie, thanks for leading the charge there, and happy to have you here.
Great, thanks. And I will segue a little bit to talk more about opportunity zones, just because it becomes relevant for everybody in this room. But I want to start out by saying, thanks to Tony and Martin for actually setting the stage. This region, upstate New York in particular, is an area with incredible assets. You heard about them. We know we can be an incredible area for entrepreneurial activity. We should be viewed nationally and internationally as an entrepreneurial hub. But we are not. We all believe it can be, and that's why we're all in this room today. And that's actually why Launch New York was created, to address a lot of the gaps and the needs that are in our ecosystem. I too come from an entrepreneurial background that maybe makes those of us with those kinds of bumps in the road more passionate about bringing the solution to a region that really needs it and is rich in assets. So my background, I came out of University of Rochester, and I happened to, in my graduate work, have a principal investigator who was my mentor and got me involved in a startup in the health IT realm. I never would have gone there but for that introduction. This was in the 90s, and we actually connected with venture capital out of Rochester, and we were able to go public in a year and a half. I mean, this is the stuff that just doesn't happen anymore. So I had that experience without having a bit of business background. And ultimately, we built that company to over 100 employees. We were listed on NASDAQ. We did ultimately become delisted, but before that, I ended up in more of a COO role there, even though I was more the content expert. And I went to a .com in New York City because I had not had enough fun. And sure enough, within 6 months of going there in 1999, we went public. And so I had the wild ride, and I forgot what my husband and kids' names were back in Buffalo, but I learned a ton in 2 years and came back to upstate. I used to be in the airport every Monday, and I'd see these other folks flying out of Buffalo, and we'd all say, what can we do back home? We want to be back home. So I was very fortunate to be brought back upstate, and really it was an insane kind of environment at that time, and we knew that would not really happen again. So when I got into the entrepreneurial world, realized that one more cup of coffee and nothing to get paid for mentoring startups was really not going to be sustaining. So my background really was to go from an academic into that entrepreneurial craziness, learn a ton, and bring it back upstate. So come to upstate, see all the same things that you just heard about. And really, back 10 years ago, there were hardly any programs at all. SCORE's been around forever, and the legacy programs really are in the Small Business Administration realm. They don't typically apply to our high growth potential businesses. So what started me on fire was not only my own experience, but then also seeing around 2009 that in fact, the Obama administration got involved in promoting what was called Startup America. And what that did is highlighted the fact that the Kauffman Foundation showed that all net new job growth in this country over the last 30 years came from companies 5 years old or younger. If you looked at those companies, they were heavily tech-oriented, and they were heavily oriented towards a more diverse population who actually were leading those companies. Not so much what we tend to see in upstate New York. So if you actually consider what is an organization that can solve that problem, if you look up on Wikipedia, venture development organization, you will see a perfect description of upstate New York. Communities that do not have a great legacy of venture-backed entrepreneurs at their disposal. So the equation we're trying to create for our region to be one of those areas really is kind of these three spheres that come together: the talent, the capital, and the idea. The reality is we have the ideas. We don't have the serial entrepreneurs in these new and emerging industries to pair up with that risk capital, and that's what Launch New York does. So we, in fact, I'll say we took the paint by number kit from the states right next to us, Ohio and Pennsylvania, have created venture development organization models statewide, funded to the tune of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars that we do not see in New York State. So the Ben Franklin Technology Program has been funding groups for literally 3 decades in cities like Pittsburgh, which we consider very much our peers, right? But if you take a look at them, they have been able to create this powerful combination of both mentoring, as well as capital to make a difference. Ohio has done the same. So we were fortunate in 2010 to actually do a venture forum in Western New York. So I was at the university and said, let's start featuring these companies. Maybe I can attract the Martins of the world to come see them. These startups jump in with their mentorship and the money. And we were able to form a partnership and actually do a planning project for a year and a half that ultimately yielded Launch New York. What I can tell you though is Launch New York, despite its name, we are not a New York State organization. We are a private, nonprofit 501c3. We in fact got exactly this much money from New York State until this year. We are now a NYSERDA clean tech incubator, which brings incredible resources to our entrepreneurs, but we serve all sectors. New York State did not step up. New York State has taken a different approach and likes to plant seeds in different small buckets, and you'll see a lot of business plan competitions that are getting a lot of marketing presence, but doesn't create that as a lasting, overarching program. So much to Tony's point about entrepreneurs feeling like there's plenty of program, I need mentoring and I need money, that's what we do. So in fact, this is the area where we operate. For our clean tech services, we can do that more broadly. And what are we? We're essentially pro bono mentoring from a group of about 24 feet on the street entrepreneurs who are experienced entrepreneurs. Some of them having exited for as much as 800 million, some of them, maybe less of a portfolio of success like that. But we also realized that those folks were not enough. We actually have a mentor pool of 2,000 that I've met through my national work that I can tap into, for example, FDA regulatory advice for expansion and food and beverage market distribution channels, those kinds of scenarios, and we do not charge our clients for any of that. So Launch New York started its services in 2012. We have served over 800 companies since that time with pro bono mentoring. And when I took over the CEO role, I had co-founded it, I was at UB, University at Buffalo at the time, I knew that the seed fund was the difference. I am part of Buffalo Angels, but I can tell you that it's a slow process, and we treat an investment of $75,000 as if we're investing $750,000. So our entrepreneurs, as much as they do come to the Buffalo Angels, they also need that risk capital that's willing to jump in quickly and catalyze this business to move. Fail fast model is much more where we are at. So where we are right now, at any given time, our mentors are serving more than 250 companies across all sectors. We're heavy in tech, like a lot of groups are, but we have a lot of biomedical, we have a lot of now clean tech, consumer and business products, advanced materials, you name it, we got it. So we started our fund in 2016. Many people say there's not enough deal flow. I can tell you that we are deluged. We cannot possibly meet all the needs. We've been asked for about $40 million, and we invest very small amounts, at $50,000 at a time. And so we have put $1.4 million out on the street within 2 years in 31 companies. Yes, I have a maniac set of employees who just love to help startups, but know that what we're doing is making them investable. We know that these entrepreneurs are not serial entrepreneurs for the most part. We're helping them build a board. We're helping them build a team. So right now, obviously, we'd love to see some exits from that. I can tell you that the 800 plus companies we've worked with have raised almost $300 million and have employed over 2,700 people, and we have a few rock stars in there. I wish I had money in them. We didn't have a fund at the time. Because of all this activity and now opportunity zones coming to play, we were not surprised when funders said to us, I love what you're doing, but I don't want to donate to this evergreen fund. I get why it's evergreen, you want to keep helping more folks, but I would like some returns. So in fact, we were in the midst of setting up our limited partner fund in the spring when I was involved with events with Steve Case, founder of AOL. He came to Buffalo, I participate with his groups, knowing that I needed to get to people around the country who understood what we were trying to do and who appreciate the problem in what we call flyover country. And so at that meeting in March, when I learned of opportunity zones, I thought to myself, oh my gosh, this is incredible timing. I will create a whole limited partner fund that is an opportunity zone. And why did I think that? Why did I even have a sense of that? It's because we are what's known as a community development financial institution. Again, I learned at national events that while New York State maybe wasn't going to fund us, Guess what? U.S. Treasury likes to fund groups who support businesses and finance them in low-income census tracts. And the sad thing for all of us is we hadn't tried to be that. Our portfolio naturally was 2/3 entrepreneurs based in low-income census tracts. That's how our urban areas are and rural. So we have a lot more work to do, and we just naturally qualified. So opportunity funds use that exact database of low-income census tracts to pick these zones. So at that point, I obviously was feeling this is a great fit. It has turned out that you really cannot create a fund. I have not heard one person now, we participate in these national coalitions, and the funds really are not possible. You need to do this deal by deal or have a fund you can deploy in a short period of time. You essentially have 180 days to put that money in. But what I can tell you is how our deal will look is we will have, say, $50K from our nonprofit seed fund. We will match it automatically when we make that first investment from the limited partner fund. We then will offer a sidecar, which is what's called a single purpose or a special purpose vehicle. And if that's cap gains money, we will be able to offer our investors an opportunity to jump into a deal and use cap gains. And why do I think we can be successful? Like we tell our entrepreneurs, you better do customer discovery before you put that product out in the market. To date, just in 2 years, we have already seen ourselves, even though we don't require a match, we have over 90 co-investors. Buffalo Angels is only one of those. Those folks have yielded 6 to 7 times our investment on any given company transaction that we do. So we know that there is pent-up demand, and I can tell you, I'm talking on opportunity zones to individuals and groups like this every day, and we have more and more people jumping in. But what we all have to do is figure out how to match the investors with the deals. So that's what Launch New York's all about, and thank you for having us.